I remember how inspiring it was to meet you for me, because I'm always looking for a way or someone to speak to about emptiness, and it's something I'm a little bit obsessed with, and often
a good obsession.
It's a good obsession.
Yes,
some obsessions can be good. And I was reading those Snow Lion publications that we used to get, the newspapers. And I saw a picture of you, and I saw the word emptiness. Immediately, I became really interested. And when I read it, I was so touched because I felt you were talking about it in a way that was very fresh and unusual, but I could feel the meaning of the word emptiness in what you were saying. And I thought, I should meet this person. So then I ran into Vicky, and Vicky said that she knew you. And I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could get Rinpoche to come to Crestone? And I remember when you came and we sat down for a while, and it was a little bit of awkwardness, just sometimes when you don't know who the other person is.
Right.
So we kind of made small talk for a few minutes, and then all of a sudden we just started talking about emptiness, and the whole conversation got extremely full and lively and interesting. I felt very deeply like I had found a good friend, somebody who you almost don't need to speak to have that connection. And it was very important to me, actually. And I thought to myself, when you left, if I never see this person again, it's okay. I'm so happy to know he's just in the world, And of course, we did meet many times, again and again. And it's been wonderful to teach with you. But after that meeting, I did something because I felt so inspired by our conversation, and I commissioned a Tangka, a Prajnaparamita, that's become very important to me, of course.
Yeah,
you have
you
a
send
copy
me
of
one.
that.
I have that in my dining room always.
I
Remind me of the Prajnaparamita, emptiness. Thank you for that gift.
Yeah, well, you're very much a part of that. And personally, I feel this particular painting that I had done, I had her standing up like in some of the older Indian sadhanas that I had read. And also in she's depicted as standing in many of the older, like in the caves of Ajanta and Ellora, I think.
Right, this one is very alive.
It's very alive, yeah.
It feels like she is ready to dance.
Yeah.
On the ground of emptiness or something like that.
Yeah. And one of the reasons that I decided to have her standing was I feel sometimes we think of emptiness as something passive or something that has nothing to do, that's not practical. But actually emptiness is what informs our compassion and our good actions and our skillfulness and our true intelligence. And it's an expression of grace, how to be in relationship in our lives. And so, anyways, I feel that this is a very important wisdom right now. And it's very current and very relevant to where we are in the world. I mean, it's always been relevant.
Right, all the time.
Living in grace in relationship is always relevant. And
definitely.
Emptiness is a big part of that in a bodhisattva path, and an expression of, like you were saying earlier, when our understanding of the world is fresh and unimpeded by our own misunderstandings.
Right.
That's what it points to, and I think so. We use the word, or we talk about emptiness in a very similar way, different and yet complementary.
Right, absolutely.
And so I appreciate that very much, Rinpoche, that you speak about it in this way, and it's been very inspiring for me to teach with you and learn from you as well.
Well, I'm learning a lot from you. It's my honor to teach with you. Yeah, the emptiness has been very special for me. There was a time in my life I felt that I started kind of losing everything, not from my life, but from my consciousness. Everything that I was holding on to, taking refuge in. And then I look around, the only thing that made sense to me was the teachings on the emptiness. So I've been reciting the Heart Sutra as my daily sadhana. And to me, emptiness is very live. It's not just concepts or abstract idea. it's extremely alive. To me, emptiness is this amazing, profound experience that we can all have access to if we open our heart. I'm realizing more and more that emptiness is really not only the heart of the Buddhist teachings, but it's a depth of the human experience. As a human being, whenever we have the courage really to go deep inside by letting go of layers of our resistance, fear, hope, concepts, attachment, and then when we touch the ground inside, the depth of human experience, it may not be as some kind of concepts or idea or even sacred idea, but this emptiness where you feel that you're really always standing on the groundlessness ground. And that sounds a little bit scary, but it's really liberating when you experience that. Like groundlessness means that you are no longer really attached to any sense of security and certainty, any illusions. You kind of feel perhaps that you're totally free from everything. And then same time, the emptiness is not some kind of purely philosophical, abstract state. It's very live, and there's maybe openness in that experience from which that our heart is open, and then because there's not so much fear, resistance, self-grasping, so we can open our heart and truly even embrace the whole world, humanity, all living beings in our love and compassion. And maybe the realization of emptiness is perhaps the only realm in which we can really start our personal evolution, individual evolution. When I say the evolution, I'm talking about like the inner journey of awakening, transformation. I'm trying to really define what I mean when I say evolution. I think I will quote Einstein. Einstein said, the goal, the vocation of this human existence is to keep widening the circle of love and compassion towards all creatures, which is very much what really bodhicitta is. This is the ultimate aspiration of Buddha Dharma, the Buddhist path, is to keep getting bigger and bigger and going ever from the finite into the infinite, even though we're never going to be the infinite, and yet going away from the finite, the ego, the whole fear, hatred, greed, all the inner poisons, and towards greater love, compassion, joy. So from that point of view, emptiness is so alive. And the emptiness to me is not just a part of Buddhism, but the whole body of Buddhism. When you take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, actually what we are really doing is we are taking refuge in the emptiness, and we kind of stop being taken refuge in the worldly glories, all the worldly favorable circumstances. We don't have to reject them, but in Buddhism, taking refuge, which is the first step, is to not to take refuge in the worldly glories, the money, the success. We can have all of them, but not to take refuge in them. Once you take refuge in them, I think we're in big trouble. We are not saying that we have to reject anything. You don't have to reject anything. You can live in a huge palace, have maybe 10 French chefs cooking for you. It's fine, as long as you don't take refuge in fame, success, money, relationship. So the moment we take refuge in the Buddhist path, we're already taking refuge in emptiness, because emptiness to me is really to live with that amazing freedom inside, that you're not bound by anything, bound by any kind of internal neuroses or not bound by any kind of life circumstance, that you're always free to be happy, free to open heart, free to embrace the whole world. Well, of course, I'm talking right now. I know I'm totally intellectualizing this whole thing, emptiness. I can't really say I had emptiness experience, but you embody the emptiness in my understanding. And that's, I feel so honored teaching with you. It's really hard to find somebody who embodies emptiness, where we can talk about emptiness. That's not really difficult. We can study the scriptures. We can talk emptiness with such rich knowledge, but to live it is really amazing, extraordinary. So I've known you right now for 5 or 6 years. That's quite a really long time. Maybe longer than that.
Maybe longer, yeah.
Yeah, maybe longer than that. And then I have been really enjoying your teachings very much. Your teachings have a huge influence on my life, on my teaching, and on my also inner journey as a Buddhist and as the path traveler. And you really express emptiness in a way that we have to arrive at a point whether we say, I don't like emptiness, or we have to surrender to the emptiness. I think you have this amazing ability to take us to that age, the amazing age where we can't really have any kind of hidden denials or justifications or some kind of tricky resistance to say, oh, I love emptiness, but really, don't surrender to emptiness, which I think many people do. But you take us experientially at this amazing age, like age between known and unknown, something like that. Maybe I'm dramatizing that a little bit. But age in our conscience, where we really see our own fear, our own resistance, our own attachment, our own misery, our own little neuroses and big delusions, and we also kind of have choice whether we have. You give us two choices: surrender to emptiness, or we just have to say, I don't like emptiness. That means I don't like really love. I don't like freedom. I don't like nirvana. But in that age, I felt that I can't really use any kind of ego game like pretending that I love emptiness, but really secretly I'm resisting to that emptiness. So you have that amazing ability, and I've known you now, and I got to know you really, really closely, not just your outer life, but your inner life too, through sharing time together, teaching together. And you really embody the emptiness. Not just you teach so well, but you really embody it.
That's a high praise from Jay.
Yes,
I didn't know.
And you are, I think, amazing being, bodhisattva, who embodies courage, love, and compassion. I'm really happy to have you in this world, and I'm very happy to find Buddhist teachers who are like you, who are very courageous, wise, compassionate, and not arrogant. That's so nice to see not arrogant Buddhist teacher. That's very liberating. Right? You are so humble and same time so profound. So thank you, really, thank you so much.
Thank you,
And you're amazing friend of mine. Thank you for helping me to keep opening heart to the emptiness and showing the path. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Rinpoche. I don't know, that's quite a high praise, but I most certainly can say with great confidence that I am in pursuit of something, and it definitely has to do with this sense of grace. So I know when I'm at my worst, and I know when I'm at my best, and that I feel good about, and I feel clear.
Yeah, authentic,
what this
right?
is. Yeah, and I'm okay with being at my worst as long as I can reflect and see, oh, I'm holding on, I'm contracting, I'm pushing against how things are. So I feel very good to be honest about that, especially to myself. You know, and be
you're very
genuine
honest.
to
That's what we really appreciate about you. Very authentic, honest. I think that's what it means to be a true spiritual being, a true bodhisattva, to be authentic.
Maybe to be interested too, in all kinds of experiences.
Absolutely.
So, I was thinking what you were saying about emptiness, because emptiness as a word is really scary. Because it's almost like a negation of experience, which actually we're talking about, like you're using the word ground and groundlessness, which is more like talking about existence and then non. And then emptiness is actually beyond that, kind of looking at that dualistic lens and seeing something in a completely different way. Because once you have holding on tightly to something being a particular way, and then there's all that grasping and clinging, then the fear of losing it or what have you is always present there. And there's so much suffering in this. So it's either a scary word or it's a very highfalutin word. But I think, when we talk about it conceptually with words, it's very hard to understand. But then as an experience, if you ask people if they've had a moment of grace, like with you, I've found teaching with you, and also your students or the people who come to the teachings when we're teaching, let's put it that way. Sometimes Rinpoche, you don't like even to refer to them as students, which also I respect that, because
my Dharma buddies,
your Dharma buddies, and also, you've said something interesting where sometimes you can't tell who's a teacher and who's a student, because we're all learning from each other.
Yeah, I feel most of the time student. That's how
me
I feel,
too.
Yeah.
That I think I do too,
and
I like that.
That's nice. Then I don't have to be somebody then who I'm not. It gives me permission to be human being. When I said ultimate, I'm also learning too.
And you don't have to be a knower.
That's
you
right.
Be open,
that's very exhausting. Must be exhausting to be the knower, the omniscient.
But Rinpoche, when the people come, when we gather with other people and we talk about this, I think, this experience of, because things are empty. Emptiness is really talking about how things are.
Absolutely.
That things don't exist intrinsically from their own side. That it all depends on the context. And everybody sees things differently, and that life is dynamic and open and changing. And so we live in this situation, and yet we have to navigate it with kindness and compassion. And when we're not clinging to our own fundamental ideas or doubts, then we can see things very clearly and openly. So in a way, what we're talking about is, this is very natural for us. And this is where I think we kind of meet, is that we're talking about a naturalness of being, not something like lofty or separate from who we are as human beings. And so when we gather with people and we teach, or so to speak, teach each other, if you ask almost anyone, if you had a moment of grace or feeling completely resolved, or where just like a fresh, unimpeded experience of your own mind and your own world, everybody knows what that is. So I feel sometimes when the term emptiness, or we start talking about existence and non-existence, which I think it's very important to talk about. Talk about this as the way the Buddha taught it, through interdependence, and the way that you also express it so articulately. But even sometimes just saying the mantra, you all experience it like it cuts right through.
Right.
That's why I like doing the chanting too.
Yeah, as the Pranjana Paramita says, form is emptiness, and emptiness is a form. So emptiness is not really nothingness or some kind of absolute dead and negation. Even though the term emptiness is kind of a little bit of negation, but it sounds like they have been used in all different traditions in Buddhism. These contemplative traditions, the negation as a method, not to take us to some kind of nihilistic nothingness, but to take us to that emptiness you're describing, that the full emptiness that is colorful, rich, that is a foundation of our life, foundation of our everything, the whole existence. And that in that emptiness, nothing is excluded. Everything is included: colors, shapes, size, food, wine, music, cry, laughter, mountains. It's all included in that, right? The whole human experience and the whole the myriad phenomena of this cosmos. But the negation seems some kind of inquiry to really deconstruct the internal veils, like the mental formations or the mental conglomeration of our ideas, concepts, attachment, neurotic tendencies, to kind of deconstruct them. It's like cleaning the streets to me. It's like paving the road. But in the end, when you landed into emptiness, it's not really even emptiness, It's not nothingness.
It's not a thing.
It's not even thin. It's just basically what happened is maybe suddenly all these veils, obscurations are kind of lifted from your consciousness, and then what you experience is that now form, emptiness, inseparable, sacredness and life are inseparable, and then maybe we're able to really kind of embrace this whole thing we call life and reality with an open heart and finding miracles, joy, liberation, sacredness, and pretty much in everything, and not to be contracted by fear and resistance. That's right. As you know, we both know, because we both are from the Nyingma tradition, and Elizabeth does and also teach Vajrayana, especially Yimkab Deshin Gyarmo, the Yeshim Soryan manifest in the form of Vajrayogini. And to me, that Vajrayogini from the Nyingma tradition, and also the painting that you gave a commission, the Paranjana Paramita painting, the Tangka, the great mother, she's live. So, and also Vajrayogini is very kind of live and passionate and maybe a little bit very colorful in many ways. And in the Tantric Buddhism, Vajrayana, they have been using especially the female principles, the darkness, to capture the emptiness. And when you look at them, they're very alive. They're not, dead. They're so alive. I think that tells that emptiness is really alive. And emptiness is what life is. Life, not from point of view of our little ego, but from point of view that big, fearless, free, open-hearted dimension. So just like the image of Vajrayogini, which is a very ecstatic and playful, colorful, very passionate, like that, as you described.
Technically from a philosophical point of view, like from a Madhyamikan point of view, they would say if things weren't empty, nothing could move. Everything would be inert. So it's because of emptiness that things actually move and express themselves and seem to dissolve, and all of that. So this is such an interesting, big idea, I guess. But I appreciate, Rinpoche, that this idea of talking about emptiness, because what happens is the deconstructing part, the kind of analyzing or looking at the mechanisms of our confusion. People think, Buddhism is kind of a downer or something like that, but it's very exciting to look at to deconstruct your own confusion.
It's
That's
like
what the
removing
path
the
is.
dust to reveal something so extraordinary beneath. It's not really like
it's
minimizing or getting rid of things. Not at all. It's just clearing away what is obscuring that amazing reality.
And then at the same time, you can speak of, like when we use the word emptiness, we're really just speaking of the recognition of something very natural to being human. That
absolutely.
At least by default, we experience it. I think human beings experience emptiness sometimes.
Absolutely.
And so it's wonderful to talk about emptiness itself, I think.
I think emptiness is to you and to me is most amazing topic, because in my understanding, emptiness is a human experience. It's experience that anybody can have access to if they open their heart. That's all another matter, as I said earlier, is really the depth of human experience. If there's such thin depth of human experience, and that might be the emptiness. So it's much bigger than any kind of doctrine that we can really come up with.
Yeah.
It's much bigger than any kind of concept that we can come up with.
Yeah.
It's big as the sky. It's really bigger than anything. So we
Limitless.
can't really say emptiness is some kind of doctrine that we love and we are trying to defend. I think it's much bigger than a doctrine, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It's this depth human experience that can be sometimes very universal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Elizabeth, I read your book, The Power of Open Question,
Oh.
and the second book is
The
On
Logic
the
of
Way.
Faith.
Congratulations, Logic of Faith.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot wait to read it. But you wrote the first book, and I wrote. I didn't really write. They are based on my teachings that somebody transcribed and with a little editing. And basically, your book really expressed the emptiness. And to a certain extent, maybe my books touched the subject of emptiness in some way. It feels the right now, maybe it has always been, there's a really urgency, this kind of need of a very live and juicy, accessible teachings, writings on the emptiness. For example, I have a friend, he's a Buddhist monk, his name is Misenyim, he's a Bukshu from South Korea. And he and I spent the whole afternoon just recently. He's touring in the United States. Really wonderful monk. And he said that lots of the young people in Asia can't really understand many of the teachings on the emptiness. And we talked about there's a little bit of almost urgency to have a more like contemporary teachings, writings on the emptiness that people can really understand and relate to. And I think your book did a very good job, and also yourself is just amazing lamp to really illuminate the emptiness. Really, really precious, your presence, truly. We all appreciate your presence.
Well,
And
I'd like to say something.
Keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you, RJ. Well, maybe I can say something about your books. I mean, all of your books. The Magic of Awareness.
Yeah,
and,
I would not say no.
And No Self, No Problem, which they're so beautiful. And I think they do elucidate the topic of emptiness, and they kind of bring you along in this kind of gentle wind, like you just feel like they're so lyrical and so poignant, and really almost like how it is when singing mantras with you. It just kind of cuts through to the heart, or to, I don't want to say heart as opposed to the, sometimes heart and mind are separated, but there's this kind of clarity and openness and intelligence to your books and the way that you speak, which I find very poetic.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful appreciation.
Oh yeah, no, I mean everybody, everybody loves the books who I've ever talked to, but for me, they're like poems.
Oh, thank you.
And that's what's special about the way you express. It's very immediate and very poignant.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for that, Rumchi.
Oh, thank you.
You keep up the good work
for
too.
your endorsement.
It's like a little praising session.